Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day. And this is not lesson number 32, this is in fact lesson number 32, 33. Yeah, this is in fact lesson number 33 in our dive into the wonderful world of musical theory. But I have the old lesson pulled up right here just so that we can use it for reference, because today we're going to continue talking about key signatures. So in, in the last lesson, we talked about what key signatures are, the rules of writing out major and minor scales, and we talked about what they are, why we use them, what do they entail, what do they mean, right? And then the previous lesson we talked about what different key signatures are there, right? So and basically what it means is if I'm writing it at the A major scale, right? E major scale has C sharp, F sharp, and G sharp. Okay. Now, if I write music in A major scale, that means that music has a lot of the notes, has only the notes of A major scale in it, which is what most music is. I explained this. Has mostly the notes of A major scale in it. Then I'm going to be using lots of C sharp, F sharp, and G sharp. Like I'm going to be using a lot of C sharp, F sharp, G sharp. And you know what? I'm not going to use all that much C natural. That means the regular C, F natural, or G natural. That means I'm going to end up writing a bunch of accidentals which look like this with the sharp there, right? I'm going to end up writing a bunch of that, and that clutters up the music and makes it much harder to read. So to make my life easier, I write this key signature, these markings, these sharps and or flats, as you can see here. No, sharps, sharps or flats. There's never a combination of the two. Sharps or flats at the beginning of a staff to signify that instead of having that the C's are all automatically sharp, that the F's are all automatically sharp, and the G's are all automatically sharp. So now I can write the scale without using a single accidental, and that makes my life much easier because now I don't have to use any accidentals because the majority of the music is written in a major scale, and now the C sharp and F sharp and G sharp are made sharp automatically, so I don't have to do anything. This doesn't restrict me for writing maybe the regular G, the G natural. However, because I can just write a natural symbol next to it. This is a natural accidental. We talked about all of this. Just a quick recap. And of course, we talked about the rules for writing scales, and then this is what we came up with. So the scale with 1 sharp is D major, scale with 2 sharps is D major, 3 sharps is E major, and so on and so forth. And we have flats. So yeah, whenever someone says E major scale, you immediately think 4 sharps. So if someone says 4 sharps, you immediately think E major scale. But today I want to focus on tips and tricks for remembering all of this because this is a behemoth, isn't it? It's extremely hard to remember everything that I've written down here. I know it by memory, but then I'm a musician for quite a few years right now, and I'm studying music theory is quite a big part of my life. So of course I would like most musicians immediately start remembering it, but point is it's not immediate, and you need to in the a good transitional method to going and by hearting it is having some tricks and tips and tricks on acronyms to remember it. And here are my tips and tricks for you. So this is probably pretty common. So for sharps, so first I am going to these tips and tricks are associated. This one is associated with you remembering. Let me just write lesson 33 up here so that it's clear what I'm. This is lesson 33. Great. So when you're talking about this is all about tips and tricks, and yeah, just ways to remember it because this is other lessons of its own. There are quite a few. So for sharps, how to remember which one is 1 sharp, how to remember which one is 2 sharps, how to remember which one is 3 sharps, and so on and so forth. For that, right, here's the trick. You start on C, which is no sharps. Okay, you start on C, which is, remember, this is no sharps. It's not 1 sharp. It's no sharps. Then you count out 5. You take the fifth of C, or if you want, you can count out 5 notes ahead of C. So you do C, D, E, F, G. Well, 5 notes in total. You count 4 notes ahead of C. So you do C, then D, E, F, G. You arrive on G, and lo and behold, that is in fact the 1 sharp key signature. So G major scale is 1 sharp. Okay, now to get to the 2 sharps, you take G, move 5 notes forward, move 4 notes forward, 5 notes in total. So G, A, B, C, D. Great. Now D, as you have it, is 2 sharps in fact. It is a 2 sharps key signature, right? Which means it has, when you write it down, it has 2 sharps. Great. Now we move on to the next one. The next one in the series of sharps, G, D. So now the next one is going to be 4 notes ahead of D. So 5 notes in total, 4 notes ahead of D, or it's called the fifth. If you're proficient with major scales and minor scales and chords and stuff, just take the fifth. And what that, so we count D, you count 4 notes ahead if you're not proficient with that. So let's do it. D, E, F, G, A. That is indeed the correct one. So this is 3 sharps. Same thing here. A, B, C, D, E. E is 4 sharps, and E, F, G, A, B, and B is 5 sharps, and everyone's very happy. So you count 4 notes ahead and you're done. And now the more accurate way of saying is to take the fifth. So if you are familiar with the major scale, just write out this major scale and look at the fifth one. Now don't do that if you can just count, but yeah. So this is the general rule. So if you want to figure out, for example, which key signature has 3 sharps, just start on C and do the sequence until you, and then you realize, okay, C, G, D, A. Okay, A has got 3 sharps. Which one has 5 sharps? C, G, D, A, E, B. Oh, B has 5 sharps. And the more you do stuff with this, the more you'll start to remember it. So it's not that much of a problem. But once again, you just take the fifth and you'll arrive where you need to. Alright? So you move 5 more to 4. And why, you might think, why is this useful? So when you're writing the key signature itself, so you can immediately, if you see a key signature which has, I can't actually, let me draw stuff so it's easier for all of us. 4, 5. If you write a key signature where you have, let's say you come across a key signature which is written like this, you can just count the number of sharps and say, oh, let's count. So C is no sharp, G is 1 sharp, then G, A, B, C, D, D is 2 sharps, D, E, F, G, A, oh, A, 3 sharps. Great, A is 3 sharps. So this is in A major scale. Lovely. Or conversely, I know I have to include 3 sharps in A major, whatever it may be, right? Great. So that's where this comes in handy quite a bit. Trust me, it is doing this quite useful, especially when you note it in conjunction with the next trick I'm about to teach you. So now, same with sharps only. We're talking about sharps. This is telling you the number of sharps. The trick to find out the number of sharps. Now the trick to find out which sharps are there, right? For example, this one is F sharp, C sharp, A sharp. Once again, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. Once again, what you're putting the sharp is you're putting it on the line for F, you're putting it on the line for C, you're putting it on the line for G. That's what you're doing, right? So yeah, you're putting, and that's what you're signifying by that. This is what it means. You're putting one on F's line, you're putting on the space for G up here, and you're putting one on this the space right here for C. Right, that's what you're doing. And that's because what you're trying to say is that F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp are all automatically supposed to be considered sharp. That's what you're doing. So yeah, just want to clarify that. Even flat's the same thing. Regardless, the way we're going to do. So now, which sharps are there? How to remember that? Well, if you go down, I'm sure many of you last video must have noticed a pattern. For example, F sharp appears in all of these, and you know what? The D major has one extra sharp, C sharp. So it's F sharp. Now I've got one extra F sharp and C sharp. And you know what? A major has F sharp and C sharp, but one extra, which is G sharp. And you know what? E major has F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, and only one extra, which is D sharp. And this follows true for B major as well. So pattern a back for you if you figure out this pattern, right? So the way the progression works is, let's draw slightly better stuff here. Clef, terrible clef, but okay. So the first sharp is F sharp. You write it on the line F. So F sharp is the first sharp. Great. Now when you want 2 sharps, the next sharp is going to be, so 2 sharps is going to be F sharp plus an extra one. The next sharp is going to be the count 5 notes ahead of F sharp and make it sharp, right? Now once again, that's just a weird trick to do it. So it's going to be C sharp, but one way to think about it is count 5 notes ahead of F sharp and make it sharp, or just count 5 notes ahead of F sharp, seriously. So F sharp, and you count 5 notes. See, the way I would learn it is you take the fifth, but many of you may not be proficient at taking the fifth as of now. I have not taught you to be proficient in that. So the best one way to do it is just take F, go 5 notes ahead, C, and make that sharp. So the next one is C sharp. So F A B C F F G A B C, and then make that sharp. So C sharp. The next one is C sharp, and that is the next one in the series. So if I have to write one sharp, it is F sharp. If I have to write two sharps, it's F sharp and C sharp. That's one thing to keep in mind. So it's like one series. And once again, you write C sharp on this space, this um, third space. That's where you write the C and you put a sharp there. Great. Now for three sharps, it's going to be F sharp, C sharp plus one extra. What is that one extra? Well, same thing. You take C and you move four notes ahead, and you make it G. So and you make it sharp. So you take C and you move four notes ahead and make it sharp. You take the fifth, right? So you take C. So C, D, E, F, G. You move four notes ahead, or five notes in total, right? You move four notes ahead and make that sharp. So G sharp. G sharp's the next one. So you move four notes ahead and make it sharp. Move four notes ahead and make it sharp. I mess up saying 5 because, as I said, this is taking the fifth. C sharp is the fifth degree of scale of F sharp, and that was the trick I used. But I'm simplifying it for because this is must be pretty. I had an intuition for major scales, but then you probably don't. Right? So point is, this makes take F, move four notes ahead, and make that sharp. Then take C, move four notes ahead, and make that sharp. Great. And G sharp is this one space above the staff, because we wanted to keep them relatively close, and writing a sharp there doesn't make much sense. Okay, that's C sharp. That's A sharp, right? So that's A major scale. So as you can see, it's just you can write out this list of sharps, right? It's a series of sharps, and if you've got one sharp, take one of these. If you've got two sharps, take two of these. If you've got three sharps, take three of these. This is a lovely coincidence, or perhaps there's some underlying factor behind it, but that's how key signatures work. So everything has F sharp, most things have F sharp and C sharp. Then each key signature is adding one extra sharp to the pre-existing sharps that were there in the previous key signature. Is what I'm trying to say. Okay, now what if you want to have four sharps? So you take F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and you have to find the next one in the series. Same routine. You take G and move four notes ahead. So G, A, B, C, D, and make that sharp. So we have D sharp. That is indeed, and it's on the fourth line. You write a D sharp, and this is E major scale. Once again, one sharp, two sharps, three sharp, and four sharps. I'll go down now. What about five sharps? The last one we're going to do for today. Same process. D and D, E, F, G, A, make it H, A, make it sharp, A sharp, and A sharp we write on the second space like this, and there we're done. So if you remember, the series is F sharp, you take the fifth of that, or you move four notes ahead. That's C sharp, you take the fifth of that and move four notes ahead. That's G sharp, you take the fifth of it and move four notes ahead. It's D sharp, you take the fifth of it, or move four notes ahead, and it's A sharp. So four notes, four notes, four notes, four notes, four notes, and it's the series, right? If you have one sharp like G major scale, you take only one, and it's F sharp. That's it. So it's just F sharp, done. If you have two sharps, take F sharp and C sharp. If you have three sharps, take F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. If you have four sharps, take F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and that circle was wrong. F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp, right? Sorry, 1 moment. And if you have five sharps, you take all five, and you're happy. That's what we have right here, and you're done, right? So this is a trick essentially for figuring out what sharps they are. So using this trick, if we have to write the G, don't try not to look at this, write the A major scale key signature. So the process to write the A major scale key signature is using these tips and tricks. You can either memorize it, which good for you if you can, or using these tips and tricks to write the A major key signature. What you would do is, again, these are just tips and tricks to remember, right? To write the A major key signature, what you would end up doing is that you first conclude how many sharps is A. So you do, okay, you first get out this series. So you go C, then four notes ahead G, then you go four notes ahead D, you can go four notes ahead A. Okay. Sometimes you don't have to include C if you don't want to. You don't have to, right? You can just start on G and that's one sharp. It's in fact confusing to include C, but in fact it's one sharp, two sharps, three sharps. Great. So 0, 1, 2, 3, three sharps. So I have to include three sharps. Great. Now with three sharps, write the second series. F sharp, take the move four notes ahead. C sharp, move four notes ahead. G sharp. Great. Three sharps. And you put on F, you put on C, you put on G, and you're done. This is the key signature for A major scale. Similarly, let's say you have to do B major scale. Same thing. First conclude how many sharps is there in B major scale. So write this series. C, You move 4 notes ahead G, you move 4 notes ahead D, you move 4 notes ahead A, you move 4 notes ahead E, you move 4 notes ahead B, and you finally, when you reach B, right, then count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. This is called 5 sharps. Lovely. And now which 5 sharps? Like the second series. F sharp, move 5 notes ahead C sharp, move 5 notes ahead G sharp, move 5 notes ahead D sharp, move 5 notes ahead A sharp, and boom, these 5 sharps. So I'm just going to add on to this like this, and we're done. That's B. That's the B major scale key signature. Now this does require you to remember whether it is in fact sharp or flat, but sometimes they'll ask you to write. If you have to ever identify what key signature it is, then the way you do it is just look at the number of sharps and you can use it. If it's sharp, use the number of sharps and write the first sequence out, and you'll be done. Right? If you have to write a key signature, they're asking you to write a key signature. Right? Say write G major scale key signature. You write the first series, conclude how many sharps it is if you know it's sharps, and then write out the second series to figure out which sharps they are. Right? Okay, and that's a lot of information. You don't have to. This is not like music theory. This is more tips and tricks to remember key signatures. You can mug them up, or you can do this, which is what I did for a very long time. Or no, I've introduced till 5 all at once because it's one concept. I felt like doing it, right? But the way most music books do it is they'll teach you two or three key signatures at one time, then they'll teach you another 2 and 3, and you move to the next grade, and the next grade will teach you another 2 and 3, whatever it is. Perhaps that's a better way of doing it, but I introduced them all at once, right? So whenever you have to identify key signature, just when you have sharps, look at the number of sharps and write out the first series, and you'll be done, right? So remember C, G, D, A, E, B. I told you how to obtain the series, and remember C is 0, and you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're good. And you can figure out immediately which one it is, B major, if it's sharps. If you have to write one from scratch, write out both series into it, and you'll be fine. Okay? If it belongs to the sharp range. So this is all tricks for sharps. So the tricks for sharps. Now let's look at. So maybe you want to note it down or something. Please feel free to. Now let's move on to some tricks for flats. Those are significantly more complicated, so I warn you right about here now. So maybe perhaps it's better not to use these tricks at all, but these are complicated, a bit more complicated in fact, not too complicated, but yeah, it works. Well, yeah, so thankfully with this one, the concept of taking a fifth and the concept of taking a fourth was not necessary over here. You could have a workaround with discounting notes. Here, if you know how to take a fourth, then you're fine and dandy, right? Then you're happy. If you don't know how to take a fourth, then you're gonna have trouble because it's not as simple as counting 3 notes ahead this time. Regardless, I'll share with you. So for the same way we have the number C is no flats. I won't write that. F is 1 flat. B flat is, think about what B flat is. B flat is 2 flats. E flat is 3 flats. A flat is 4 flats. A flat major scale, I mean. And what was it? I'm so sorry. You see, even I'm going senile. Yes. Or D flat major scale, yes. D flat major scale was 5 flats. So see, I'm recalling all this from memory. You don't have to. So the way this works is now the way to do this series is far less easy. Why? Because in the first series you're taking the fifth, and this series you're taking the fourth. And if you know how to take the fourth, fine and dandy. Each one is the fourth to the previous one. They're available to you. If you don't know how to take the fourth, you don't. It's not as simple as counting 3 notes ahead, unfortunately, because there's a bunch of flats here. So I'll explain how to do it. Or in fact, since all these are flats, you might manage, right? So there's one exception to the rule I'm about to teach you. Okay, just remember, start on F, right? F is 1 flat. Then you can count 4 notes ahead, right? So F A 1 1 B C D B E C B C D E. So the problem really is that it doesn't work for this area. So one overall trick I teach you, in fact, is just to move 2 tones and a semitone, 2.5 tones from one to another. That's how it works. That's a simple way of doing it. So F, move one tone, it's G, move another tone, it's A, half tone, it's B flat. B flat, move one tone, it's C, another tone, it's D, half a tone, it's E flat. E flat, move one tone, it's E flat, move one tone, it's F, move another tone, it's G, move half a tone, it's A flat. If D flat, A flat, I mean, move one tone, it's B flat, move another tone, C, move semitone, D flat. So two, move 2.5 tones forward from each note to get the next note, right? It's not as simple as counting notes, because once again you have to take the fourth, I mean the fourth of the major scales. You write down the major scale and it's the fourth note. And this is quite intuitive for me, because once again when I was preparing for my theory exam, then I had to remember all the key signatures. I had intuitive understanding, very quick intuitive understanding of major scales. I'm assuming you don't have that because I've introduced them just a while back. So this is a one trick you can have: 2.5 tones move forward, and you get this series. As for the series of flats, right? Um, as with the sharps, you would have noticed B flat, then it's only one extra B flat and E flat. Then this one also has B flat, E flat, and only one extra A flat. This one has B flat, E flat, A flat, and only one extra D flat. And that's so the same thing that was working with the sharps now works with the flats. They're similar in that way. So now when we want to figure out the actual, now this will be very confusing, right? This is actually quite confusing. But luckily, luckily the sequence for the flats, just how we have this sequence for the sharps, right? F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, for the actual way of placing the sharps, is actually the same as this sequence, just shifted forward by one. So we start on B flat, same process. You move 2.5 tones forward. You go to E flat, move 2.5 tones forward. You go to A flat, move 2.5 tones forward. You go to D flat, move 2.5 tones forward, and you go to, think about it, D flat, E flat, F, and G flat. So you go B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, and this is the second sequence. So just like we had C, G, D, A, E, D for sharps, we have um, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat for flats. And just as we had F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp for sharps, we have B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat for flats, and it works in much the same way as I said. The way to attain these for both: in the first one you start on F and you move 2.5 tones forward for each subsequent one. The second one you start on B flat and you move 2.5 tones for every subsequent one. Anyways, so you have, let me in fact draw a star first. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this video is very erratic. It's just about tips and tricks to remember key signatures. So as I was saying, you start on, let's say you have to first identify key signature. Let me write one. Let's write 3 flats. Let's see what happens. Okay. To identify key signature, once again you look to your first sequence, figure out which one is 3 flats. So you start on F, move 2.5 tones forward, B flat, move 2.5 tones forward, E flat. Oh great, this is E flat major, and you'll be correct. In now that's it works for all of them. If to identify a key signature, just look at the number of flats that they are, and you'll know it based on the first sequence that we learned, right? Then if they ask you to write A flat major scale, what are you going to do then? Then what you have to do is first figure out how many flats A flat is by the same method. Right, F, B, move 2.5 tones forward, B flat, move 2.5 tones forward, E flat, move 2.5 tones, A flat. Okay, great. Four flats, we're good. A flat is 4 flats. Great. Now to find out which 4 flats, write the second sequence. Start on B flat, move 2.5 tones forward, go to E flat, move 2.5 tones forward, go to A flat, move 2.5 tones forward, go to D flat. And you'll realize, okay, I have to use 4 flats. 4 out of these flats. Great. And you write B flat on this middle line, you write E flat on the top space, you write A flat on the second space, you write D flat on this fourth line, and you're done. This is A flat major scale. Now I honestly just encourage you to go do practice. Like practice this, and that's all I can say. You have to practice, only then it will come to you properly. But these are the tips and tricks which you can use, right? You can just mug it up if you want to. It's not that hard, right? You can just mug it up. But if you don't want to and you don't feel you're not good at mugging up, then you can use these tips and tricks. So once again, for sharps, to get the series of numbers of sharps, you do start on G or start on C if you want, but remember that C is 0, and move 4 notes forward, 4 notes forward, 4 notes forward, 4 notes forward, right? That's 1 sharp, 2 sharp, 3 sharp, 4 sharp, 5 sharp. And to do which sharps that are present, you start on F sharp and you move 4 notes forward, 4 notes forward, 4 notes forward, 4 notes forward. And if it's 3 sharps, then you use the first 3 of these sharps. If it's 5 sharps, you use all 5 of them. If it's 4 sharps, you use first 4. If it's 2 sharps, you use first 2. That's how it works, right? So with this, you can identify one easily. Just look at the number and figure out which one it is by writing out the first sequence, which starts on whichever one you C or G, whichever one you want. Or if you have to write one from scratch, right? You first look at how many sharps it is, and then write that many sharps. And I've told you how to write it. Now in terms of flats, similar thing except much harder because it's no longer counting 4 notes ahead. You have to take 2.5 tones forward, so, or 2 tones and a semitone if you prefer that terminology. So for the number of flats, start on F, that's one flat, and you move 2.5 tones forward, B flat, and so on and so forth. And for the flats themselves, start on B flat, and same procedure until you reach inevitably where you want to reach. If you have to identify one, just look at the number of flats. This is 3 flats, okay, start on F, move 2.5 tones forward, B flat, move 2.5 tones forward, E flat. Okay, this is 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 flats, it's E flat major scale, done, right? If you have to write by yourself, once again, first determine how many flats it is by writing out the series until you reach that number. And once you reach that pitch, I mean, you know the number, and then write out this sequence and take the first that many. So if I have to find out A flat, I first do F, B flat, E flat. Okay, A flat's the fourth one, which means it has 4 flats. Okay, write out the second sequence. B flat, okay, 2.5 tones forward, E flat, okay, 2.5 tones forward, A flat, 2.5 tones forward, D flat, and take the first 4. I only need to calculate 4 for that, and you write B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat in order, and you're done. Now these tips and tricks are not easy, they're confusing, but you know what, it's better than mugging up quite a few, more often than not. So I just thought I'd share what I've learned. Over the years with you right about now, just because, yeah, this is what I've learned across the years. So with that being said, that's really all I wanted to cover today. Just some tips and tricks. I'll actually perhaps leave an article for remembering key signatures after this, perhaps, and we can then see exactly what we need to do there. Anyways, thank you for paying attention. Thank you for. I hope you learned something valuable. I hope you took some knowledge away from this, even though it is this is self-forward is quite confusing, right? But I just decided to give it to you straight instead of using a lot of banter, because these are relatively hard tips and tricks, but they're better than bugging up, as I said. So hopefully you took something valuable away from this lesson, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the day. See you and have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye.